humanity traverses the collective dark night of the soul, we came together and decided to step up amongst so much insanity, to be an authentic, heart-centered and unified voice in sharing our personal stories and experiences, with the hope of inspiring and awakening others into their true nature as the eternal God, light and love we are. In this critical time of evolution, the time is now to choose peace and harmlessness, to seek alignment with truth and courage. The time is now to cultivate our soul, to understand our multi-dimensional selves, whilst guarding and protecting our minds. Let us break down the walls of separation and classification. Let's reconnect our hearts to the oneness. Will you take steps to heal yourself, to choose pro-human values? Our inner work is to free ourselves from pain and delusion, so we can live with clarity and coherence, in service to others and our communities. What is the agenda of the anti-human controllers? What is the agenda of divide and conquer? Imagine what life could be like right now if you lived on this planet in harmless actions. How can we stand up for our inherent human rights? Can we do the right thing in the face of tyranny? In reclaiming our sovereign freedom, demanding truthful information and full disclosure. For one and for all, we are the Truth Pulse. Hi, welcome to our podcast number 4, to the Truth Pulse. And it's my turn hosting. My name's Linda and Sonia and Trinity today. Our subject today is ego and Lightbody. So I'm going to share a little bit first about myself. As with the first podcast, I was a little bit shy. And so I think it's becoming easier each week as we become more familiar with doing this sort of thing. Yeah, just a little bit about my backstory of, as I mentioned, the healing that I was, that I've been doing, I think, really on and off from quite a young age. I think the first time I learned a healing modality was age 20. And then age 21, I did a shamanic healing course. So from a young age, I was very aware of the invisible realms. And I had so many strange experiences, which I had no context for. I was pretty psychic and I was telepathic with people. And I could not understand why I could read their emotions, and they would not reveal what they were really thinking or what they were really feeling. So I think what I found out as an adult, that I was an intuitive empath. And so what that means is you pick up and you feel other people's feelings and thoughts. You also pick up on different energies, and you can be very open-hearted, very compassionate, often to the detriment of yourself. Sorry, excuse me. And there were a few weird things that happened that I didn't really share with adults around me. I think the first one I did, actually, I shared it with my family. I was only about 5 at the time. And we were in this big old house, and night after night, I was laying in my bed, and we had this air vent. I don't know if you have them in the States, but in these old English houses, you have these air vents that are in the wall. And my bed was right next to this air vent. And so this air vent, I could hear these voices speaking to me, and they were very unfriendly. They were really quite dark, and they were just, for me as a child, they were just like, oh, it was sort of, they were saying, oh, we're going to come and get you, and just talking about sort of nasty things that was going to happen to me. You know, very threatening. And I don't know how, I can't remember how long it went on for, but, you know, for quite a few nights. And I remember, to get away from these voices, I would go to the other end of the bed under my duvet, and lie there shaking in fear and sweating and could hardly breathe, but I just had to hide under my duvet, you know, just going, oh. And so I remember so after this happening for a while, I mentioned it at the kitchen table. It was like some sort of family, you know, DIY meeting. And I said to my uncle, can you please cover up this air vent because I can hear these voices? And I like, the family just sort of looked at each other and went, okay. And they didn't say anything that, you know, fair enough, they didn't put me down or anything like that. They didn't say I was crazy. And they covered up the air vent, and then that was that. And then at the age of 9, I was living in the I was in the Middle East at the time, and it was a very pleasant experience of being visited. And the recollection I have are they were very friendly and very loving. And I remember lying in my bed, and it was a very physical sensation as well. It was like a sort of tingling and sort of like an energy. As an adult, I found out that it was like a healing energy, you know, that sort of calm, peaceful, but you get very tingly. You can get very like flowing hot and cold. It was like that. But I can't remember exactly what they were saying, but I just remember the essence of it. And the essence was that they were my family. And I remember lying there crying and just going, I don't want to be here. I want to be with you guys, you know. And I was like, you know, can I just come back with you? They're like, sorry. it was like, no, sorry, you've got to stay here. But it was almost like they were giving me comfort and, you know, like a memory of, you know, everything's going to be okay, and, you know, this is who you really are. And I was like, you know, I was only 9, and this was just before a very difficult part of my life happened as well. So when I look back at it, and I was thinking, they must have turned up just to give me a bit of comfort, you know, like to give me strength to sort of get through all the trauma that was going to happen, basically. So yeah, I just sort of wanted to share that. I think it's really good to have personal experiences, because I'm sure there's a lot of children out there that have had a lot of weird experiences that they can't share, you know, with adults around them, or they're actually having memories of, you know, maybe past memories and things like that. So also just to make you aware that, you know, for me, I started asking questions from a very young age. I was very aware of, you know, I'd wake up at night and there would be like a very tall being at the end of the bed. You know, and I really can't remember now what was being said, but, you know, the energy and the essence I could feel. I just have these memories. And sometimes it wasn't always pleasant. So I'm just thinking now. So I was also very aware of, I had a part of me that was like a sort of higher self that I found out as an adult. That's what happened. It used to give me warnings when I was in danger sometimes. And if I was going through a difficult phase, as I hit being, you know, through different times, especially as a teenager and a young adult, I would sort of start calming myself and breathing, because I learned meditation at age 17. And I started having a lot of, you know, being very sensitive, I think, to energy, you know, just to everything. And I just, you know, wonder how other people weren't feeling it as well. I was like, okay, I just accepted it. That's just the way it was. And, you know, from a young age, I was also aware that I could feel chi. And so, you know, when the teacher sort of said to me, I was in a Qigong class, and they said, oh, you know, you're feeling chi. I was like, oh, okay. So that's basically, you know, sort of trying to give you a picture of how it sort of the layout to my journey, my path really was always questioning why are these things happening to me? Why am I feeling this? You know, I'm aware of, you know, the sort of different consciousness and energies around me. And when I was 16, I started partying, you know, drinking alcohol, you know, that whole thing. And I remember night after night that I'd be paralyzed, and I would, a part of my consciousness just was like being sucked out, and I was just being sucked down through this tunnel. And so when I did research, when I was older, I discovered that it was called astral abduction. And also a part of me would be like floating around the room as well before I was sort of sucked through this tunnel. And it was also a very, very high pitched sound. I'll never forget that. It was like, just like such a really, it was, you know, reverberating. And I just used to dread it happening. And I would try and force myself, because it was absolute, like being paralyzed. I could not move. So, you know, this just set me off on the path of like, oh yeah, then I came across a book called The Astral Body when I was 17, when I was traveling. And it was by the Theosophical Society, and I completely lapped it up. I was like, now this, I'm getting an explanation of what's going on, you know, what's happening within my life, and what's happening to me. And then, you know, that's when I started discovering Buddhism. They were talking about the ego, you know, how cause of suffering is the ego. So, you know, this sort of spirituality stayed through with me. But at the same time, you know, I'm running around like a headless chicken, you know, sort of going through the different addictions and the drugs and the alcohol, and and being an empathic as well. I think that just, you know, blew my aura open even more. I'd go to some healers sometimes and they'd go, gosh, you know, you're really, you know, you've got holes in your aura, you've got this, that, and the other. And, you know, I knew that I was harming myself, but at the same time, it was like, I kept trying, you know, I'd go to some workshops, I'd do some self-healing, I'd learn a modality, but then I'd sort of keep circling back to, you know, doing self-harm, going drinking, partying. So, you know, I think that's the path for a lot of young, what you call crystal beings now, our crystal children that have been arriving on the planet, because, you know, you are overwhelmed with what you're feeling, what you're sensing, what's happening to you. So it's sort of, it becomes like an escape. And that, for sure, that's what I was going through as well. It was like, oh, I just don't want to know anymore. I don't want to feel it anymore. You know, just block it out. You know, numb yourself. So yeah, that's sort of more about my path, really. And which leads me on to, so in my 30s, it went into like the dark night of the soul. And, you know, by that time I sort of, you know, was becoming a bit more emotionally intelligent and questioning, you know, sort of trying to move away from all this sort of self-destruct, self-sabotage and everything. And, you know, never really sticking with anything as well. You know, it was like, oh yeah, I do some healing and, you know, I do a little bit on myself, but, you know, I do it with some clients, but, you know, more friends than anything else. Sort of never setting it up as a profession, even though I was getting really, really good results with people. Like, for instance, someone had a slip disc, which basically, you know, can put you out of action for 6 weeks. You know, you just got to lie flat on your back. And I did a shamanic technique on her, and you know, she got up and she was like, wow, it's gone. And, you know, she was just amazed. She was like, wow, you've just got to be doing this. This is your gift, you know, as a, you know, doing it as a healer. But I was still really young. And I was like, I knew within my heart then, you know, it's a great responsibility. And that I wasn't mature enough, you know, to sort of have, you know, with that sort of ability, it's like you've also got to have the emotional healing. That's 99% of actually healing yourself, is the emotional side of yourself, and how to discipline yourself. So this is what I want to, lead into today is the ego, because when you have that, that's like a construct that is at odds with your eternal self, with your, with your true self. And so this sort of dark night of the soul it is an opportunity, and I think people need to be aware of the fact that it's a great opportunity to heal yourself, because it's your ego is then dismantling, because you can't, it's like a wake-up call. It's saying, I can't carry on like this any longer. And it's almost like you spiral downwards, because you can see it's all like in your face. It's like, yeah, you need to change, and what are you going to do about it? It's like the universe is just knocking on your door saying, wake up. So if you both want to talk about any of your like experiences of dark night of the soul, because I'm losing my voice now, or anything to do with
Well, I had a comment what you were talking about earlier. I always found it fascinating, the sleep paralysis. I had a friend who experienced that, and he was terrified. It's interesting that you bring it up. I didn't know that about you. And he would explain it where he would be lying in bed and he couldn't move. He was paralyzed. And is that something similar? And is that, do you think, part of the astral abduction type thing when you're being invaded? And I don't know if you can say anything more on that. I mean, it was pretty clear, but it jumped out at me because I remember, I'm like, oh my God, thank goodness that's never happened to me. But he was so terrified.
Yes, it happens to a lot of people. Over the years, I've spoken to people, and it's happened to a lot of people. Yeah, and it's what they call an astral abduction. And so that's what happens when we weaken ourselves, when we're blowing holes in our aura through taking drugs, through alcohol. That's their way in.
I see. Because I seem to remember, I think that he had some issues with alcohol and drugs too, now that you mention that. So maybe there was holes in the aura and they got in, like you said. And then you're able, you have that, if you're more open to begin with, like you said, you were intuitive as a young age. And then it's like the sleep paralysis is part of you're actually witnessing it happening, because that part of your center, your third eye is open, but you can't move. It's like it's crazy stuff.
Yeah.
I want to chime a bit on sorry, Sonia.
No, that was it.
Yeah. Yes, I don't think I had experience of, well, maybe I have, I just don't remember, but I definitely had once, I remember, maybe, I don't know, 10 years ago, I had an experience when somebody just tries to hoover me out of my body, just like a vortex that comes in, and like a device which just hoovers me, is like something is hoovering me out, and it's very frightening. I kind of forcefully stopped myself. So I don't know whether it was part of the abduction or whether it was just my astral body was trying to leave and I was still awake, and I just got freaked out and stopped myself. But it didn't feel to my ego, but my ego was quite soft at the time because I was already sleeping. So my ego wasn't strong, my conscious ego. So it didn't feel like a nice experience. It felt that something's forcefully forcing me out of the body and hoovering me into something. Almost so that's the only thing I could say. But I heard a lot about people who experience this paralysis. So, and it's not just linked to addictions. I think people who don't have addictions also, especially younger people, seem to sort of have that a bit more happening to them, just as an experience, that maybe those who are more sensitive empaths, they seem to be quite prone to this kind of experiences. So yeah, it's certainly something that we need to maybe be mindful, aware of, and research, and not be afraid of these experiences, but learn more about what they mean, whether it's holes in the aura or whether it's sensitivities, or maybe we need to learn boundaries, how to, because we haven't talked about the astral plane, but obviously astral plane is kind of a little bit corrupted with all sorts. So a lot of youngsters go there and do all astral projection and all that stuff, which is great, but we need to know the context. We need to know what we're getting into with that. So I suppose when
Exactly.
it's getting a bit more intense now. Maybe 10, 20 years ago, it may have not been as intense. I mean, it's always been, but maybe now it's getting more intense with 5G and all that, all other high tech that is coming and interfering with the finer levels of our being. So definitely more vigilance of mind control and all that. So
I liked how you, Linda, how you brought up how it's good to talk about for everyone really, but for the younger people as well, you know, coming in, not understanding what's happening to their body, if they're sensitive. You talked about crystal children, but you know, it's for all of our listeners really, you know, generally speaking, of course, you know, but it's good to be aware of these different layers of our light body. And, you know, when we start to open up to the processes, you know, what it's going to feel like. And this is what we're here to do. We're here to talk about it. We're here to, you know, talk about our own experiences, but, you know, and that in a way will help support, you know, give information to people. This is what's been shut down about us. I think it's really good that you started talking about that. Yeah, I look forward to really getting into that. It's something that's been shut down within me as well. I mean, it's my gosh, I was so infiltrated with the AI and the possession, etc. when I was younger, and you know, in doing lots of deep healing, etc. I'm starting to open up and starting to really sense and feel, and starting to really feel my presence for once in my life. You know, I would say within the last. Well, it's been a process, but I would even say within the last 6 months, it just keeps getting stronger and stronger, and that's the process. It just keeps clearing away the layers. So I just wanted to add that little piece that it's really good that we're talking about it. So important. We just really need to understand as humanity what we're about. What we've been told isn't what we really are. You know, you're here to tell us and talk about, help us understand the light body anatomy. That's exciting to me.
Thank you for sharing. Yes, because you know, if we don't know that we have an ego, I think it's disempowerment. You know, knowledge is power. So the more knowledge we have about ourselves, the more able we can become empowered. And you know, the only way we can become empowered is to take control of yourself. It's all about self-discipline, self-love, self-compassion, how to lift yourself out of the ego. So what is the ego? The ego is, it's like I would say the lower mind, and it's our, conscious mind and the unconscious. And so the unconscious holds a lot of our what you'd call the pain body. It's like the instinctual mind, which is like linked to our second chakra. And so the ego can keep you running around in its programs and in these emotional, instinctual, which often leads to overwhelm, because for example, you've got lots of anger. So, you're running around in your daily life, but this anger just keeps coming up. And so when you look at that, that's a way of, you're living through the lens of anger. So, anger is going to distort what you think and what you feel. It's going to distort everything, because you know, until you're able to, you know, step away and step out of these emotions that are, you know, sort of ruling your daily life, and you're just being overtaken by these thoughts and feelings. So, you know, today we want to talk about how to just take a step back and how to, you know, deal with the ego, because it's just really tied in with, you know, your mental body, your thoughts. You know, it's negative ego, it's like negative thoughts, you know, your self-talk. How many people have like negative self-talk? You know, how often do they walk around blaming other people and feeling, you know, shame? Because, you know, we're coming from our pain body, you know, we're always dealing with it from that ego perspective, which, you know, is the lower mind. And I'm not being judgmental. I've been there, you know, I've been there. I've got the t-shirt, you know, as I briefly described. You know, it's how do we evolve? This is what we, you know, have to keep asking ourselves. How do I evolve? You know, so it's basically, for me, how I released or dismantled the ego was going through the dark night, which took 4 years. You know, it's not an overnight process. You know, you can be in this sort of dark place, and you know, sooner or later you've got to choose of how to lift yourself out. And what I did was I discarded all the new age modalities, healing, everything like that. And what I did, I sat there day after day, and I went within my heart. And there was one ancient meditation that like my heart told me to do, and I did that every single day. I was connecting into like my divine feminine and divine masculine, but I was also connecting in with the earth. And what I would say is, I want my heart, and I would bring my heart out, and I would keep willing it to come out and open. And, you know, that's just my inner guidance of what I needed to do. You know, as I was sort of just coming out of the sort of this dark dismantling that I've had for a few years. And it actually did. I could feel my heart open, and it actually, I could feel these walls around it, and it took about a week. And it was like a physical pain when it actually cracked open, was how I can describe it. And it was like these sort of, the walls just came down around my heart. So whatever pain, you know, this sort of that was holding it in, it just, yeah, it was a physical pain and emotional. I mean, I was sitting there day after day crying, feeling like, you know, I need to release this. This is where my true power is, but it was been, you know, obviously suppressed. So yeah, and then that was it. I was just transformed, you know, step by step. That gave me a foundation of I then became just a lot more mindful. I was able to then become an observer. So this is a really useful tool, you know, of empowering yourself, is to become an observer. So, you know, you've got to keep observing your thoughts every day. You know, watch your negative self-thought, watch your negative thoughts, you know, and with your intention. Like, I don't want to be thinking that, you know, I love myself, or, you know, sort of try and, you know, neutralize this sort of talk that keeps happening. or try to neutralize, you know, these emotions that are coming up. You know, if you've got lots of anger, or, you know, whatever emotion, or overwhelm, it's about taking a step back and becoming the observer. And then it just becomes easier day by day, step by step. So do you have any experiences you want to share?
Well, I wanted to just maybe to add, and maybe just see what you think, but it's like, when this system where we are, the three-dimensional system, Earth, yes, and our bodies, in a sense, it is a polarity system. Yeah, here we have this, you know, black and white, dark and, you know, is different polarities here. And in a sense, there is nothing wrong with polarity. So this is where maybe, you know, some kind of identity, some personality matrix, which we could call ego, potentially is needed to kind of experience these different polarities. Today I want to experience what it's like to be sad, okay, and tomorrow I want to experience what it's like to be happy and see the contrast. This is interesting, but this is all done with the neutral point also being somewhere there. But what happens obviously with the negative ego is that neutral point totally got lost, you know, eliminated. There is no neutrality, there is only polarity. There is only, you know, polarity of extreme unhappiness or extreme happiness. And it's like, it's very polarized. And this is when it becomes dysfunctional, because we are conditioned from a young age to exist on a specific polarity. And we think that this polarity is what is us. So we take our identity and only and use that polarity to say, well, this is me. And this is where the prison comes, and the ego and the negative ego prison comes with this. And it's very easy to control then, because if society tells me that something is good, and I learn this, and my personality adopts that identity, that, you know, this is all I know. So this structure becomes me, and this structure starts controlling me and starts sort of preventing me from realizing that actually, no, this is just a glove. Ego is just a glove I'm going to wear and allow my spirit to experience, and then come out into the neutral. So this is how it helps me to understand, you know, what happened on the planet, because originally, maybe not this density, but maybe slightly less density, but it's an interesting to experience the polarity. Maybe this does not exist in different galaxies. Maybe it does not exist, this kind of polarity that we have here. And maybe this is like, wow, let's go into that density to see what polarity feels like. But of course here it gone too far. It just gone very, very out of proportion because of mind control, because we know why, because of all the other entities that decided to capitalize, because of our history, because of the manipulation and all that. So here we now ended up with this negative ego structure. We are born into the negative ego structure, and it's up to us to free ourselves. And Linda, you've explained very, very well through your own experience what it felt like to feel, to be in the ego, or how we need to dismantle that ego. It's like, it takes us up to the age like 20 to get the ego, 25, and then we have to dismantle it. And not everyone is up to it, you know. So this is why we need to understand that this ego construct is not a healthy construct for us. It's a prison. It gives us, like Linda, you said, it gives us like a certain filter through which we see reality. Like if I'm unhappy today, that's it. I'm going to see everything as dark and gloomy. And it's a filter. It's just a filter. And once we understand that, we are empowered, but we don't. That's the thing. This is where the problem starts, where we don't see that there is the 0 point observer standing at the back who is actually experiencing these different polarities. And that's what you said again, like keep observing yourself, keep observing your thoughts, because the mind control does not, you know, mind control is constantly being pumped through the earth grids, through the collective fields, through everything, you know, constantly through each one of us. We still have our bits of shadow to clear. So mind control is still operating in there. So we just have to keep that observer. So yeah, Sonia, do you have anything to chime on this?
That was great. No, that was beautifully said. Yeah, I can only just say I agree with both of you. Yeah, it's well said. That filter, and you know, and I just want to send the message to the listeners that, you know, this isn't all there is. Absolutely not. This is, you know, being in your pain body, being unhappy, feeling trapped, or, you know, looking around at the craziness. That is not, you know, the truth. It's what's been concocted and perpetuated, but it's not. What we're trying to do here is we're trying to say that is not That is not the truth. That's not the highest truth. That's not the truth spirit. That is something that is of, like Linda, you were saying, the negative ego. It's something to keep us dumbed down. It's something to keep us disconnected from our true origins. This is what we're trying to convey here. You know, we're undergoing an ascension right now. We're ascending out of the muck, out of the mire. And, you know, so we're explaining, offering steps on how to do that. What you thought you were is not what you actually are. What you thought you were is not what you actually are. And it's, you know, it's, you start going through the process and you realize, my gosh, the deep levels of separation between one another. What does that do? It causes us to be rude and unkind to others. It causes us to be disrespectful to others. It causes us to look the other way when someone's suffering. It causes us to look the other way when we've got all this craziness going on with the chemtrails or the poisons in our food. It impacts everything. So when our ego mind is running the show, okay, that's the lower centers. That's to me, it's the poison. Okay, it's not the truth. When we're not witnessing things neutrally, when it's got out of hand, and when we're not feeling the sadness and the pain, and then we're just stepping out of it, but we've actually identified with it, and that's become our whole identity. When we've forgotten who we are, okay, that's when the real trouble starts. That's the disconnection. We're trapped here. We're not going to always be trapped. This is what the ascension is, but this is what I want to convey to us, that we need to break free from that. There was one other thing I was going to say, but I can't remember. It'll come to me. Yeah, just keeping that in mind, dismantling the ego, getting back into the heart center, back into the love, and yeah, for now I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, well said, Sonia. And I just like, really, ego thrives on polarization. That's it, like what you said, division, polarization, you know, anything where we divide, compete, compare, you know, all this is like ego loves this. Less than, you know, better than, you know, richer than, this than, you know, ego loves this. And the heart is what you're saying. The heart is this 0 point, which is like, say, hey, okay, that's nice to play with this, but actually you are this, you are unity. You are not the polarity, you are not the end of polarities. Your true essence is in the unity. And this is what we are, as each individually and collectively now is this is the call for us to raise to this unity in the heart and understand the polarities for what they are and step above them, or embrace them, integrate them, but not be constantly like a seesaw, like this, from one polarity to another. And there are different reasons why people, you know, mind control is designed in order to make people needy, to overcompensate certain polarities. Like if I didn't have a lot of attention in childhood, you know, all my life I will be now conditioned to seek attention for various means. So this is it. This is the ego polarity now, which is forcing me to a specific identity where I will be seeking attention. And this is how my ego will be played, unless I understand that and say, hey, don't want to play this again, don't want to play this anymore. I understand my source, my attention comes from within me. I don't need to feel that need externally. It's all within. Polarities always keeps us in the external need, in parasitic system, yes, because we need to parasite in order to fulfill that need in a polarity. But once we come to the center, no parasitism in the center. We're like, what's the word? Contained, self-contained, contained within.
Self-contained, yeah. you're self-responsible now. I mean, you know, when you start looking at your thoughts, your belief systems, your programs that are running, you know, which is dealing with your shadow side. So, you know, to bring light into the shadow, that requires, you know, this sort of self responsibility. So you're not, you know, being responsible for your emotions, being responsible for your shadow. You know, how is your shadow playing out within your life? How is it playing out within yourself? You know, the ego will resist. That's what it does. So, you know, you'll keep going around in circles until you actually sit down and really start working on your shadow. And yeah, just working with these programs.
And it can only happen in the heart, because we cannot integrate our shadow unless we have the love, because shadow is scary. I mean, if my ego is not strong enough, if I am, you know, if I don't like to be criticized, and if I want to be perfect, and I see my shadow, it's scary. I don't want to see it. I don't want to see parts of me which are not perfect, because my ego cannot handle that. So the only thing that can handle to see myself as imperfect is the heart. So it's like, once we raise into the heart space, we can handle anything. The heart can handle anything. It's like 12th dimensional ray, diamond ray can handle any frequency. The heart can handle it. Yeah. So it's like...
It's like saying the ego is the external and the heart is the internal. You know, it's really about becoming familiar with your inner landscape, becoming familiar with your internal energy system. You know, what is really in there, and that's just a lot more. You know, I suppose it leads us into the light body, really. So, you know, when we talk about the heart, it's a huge energetic body. You know, our light body, what, you know, I'm sure people are familiar with, it's called the aura as well. It's like a holographic template. And so when you start working with the light body, it's like a frequency. It's almost like you become aware of, you know, when you're meditating, you know, or you're doing things that bring you joy. You know, it's like to step away from the sort of external polarity game is just going within and saying, okay, what brings me joy? What can I do to nurture myself today? What can I do to love myself? You know, am I going to listen to some music that's going to uplift me? Am I going to meditate? You know, whatever that you can do to, you know, bring yourself into presence, into the here and now, you know, because the mind and the mental body looping, oh, you know, what's going to happen, and start creating anxiety about the future, or you're, you know, constantly living in the past. Oh, this happened to me and that happened to me. Oh God, I'm a victim. No, just come into the present moment. Whatever you can do is just going to be so supportive. You know, just keep coming into the present moment. So if you want to get up and start dancing, you know, just whatever can bring you into that sort of joyful or peaceful, you know, calm, then you're able to just take a little step back, you know, just maybe just do some breathing. You know, whatever's going to be supportive for you into, you know, becoming aware that, you know, your light body, your soul, your spirit actually does exist. You know, so it's sort of coming out of the mind, it's sort of coming into the body, because we need to connect these levels together. We need to connect our body. We need to connect our minds, and we need to connect, you know, all these different levels and layers need to come into some sort of an alignment, into like this sort of harmonic structure. So, you know, with that in mind, you know, it's being aware of the 12 tree grid, and we are going to put in a visual for you of the 12 tree grid. Now, people are not going to be that familiar with this, because what they will be familiar with is the 10 tree one. Okay, so the 10 tree one is what people have heard of is the Kabbalah, and that's been, you know, that's a distortion. That's another, it's what we call the sort of dark tree of life. And so this 12 tree is actually our organic tree of life. and it's actually an energetic structure. So when you start exploring and working on your level body, your level 1 of the light body, this is what you become aware of. So they're basically like those spheres that you see. So it's 1, 2, 3, and it goes up. So from below your feet, and it comes up above your head. So, you know, you start working through these spheres as like these energetic structures and what's being held. You know, obviously then we'll have, will come through, you become aware of blockages, you know, which can tie in with your shadow self, but it can also tie in with implants. And so I think we're going to be, you know, exploring more about telling you about the 12D technique, which is, you know, connecting in with your heart, connecting in with your higher levels of identity. So the light body, it's like it links in with our hearts and these spheres in the 12 tree grid. So, you know, you keep strengthening yourself through meditation and through this sort of shielding technique. You know, it starts sort of, you know, quietening the mind down, it quietens your body down. You know, you sort of can get into a lot more peaceful and calmful state. And what I found is it was just really empowering for the first time in my life, which was how long ago now? I've been doing it for 5.5 years. And it's just been the most clearing, empowering thing that I've ever done, you know, and then it's just been really powerful. So, you know, I just became aware as a sensitive how these structures were in my light body. And, you know, just aware of your heart is like this sort of harmonic resonator and how it starts connecting in with the higher aspects of yourself. So when they start aligning, it's almost like these fibers of your light body they sort of light up, you know, and they start becoming clearer and stronger. And that way you start sort of clearing and releasing yourself of, you know, the densities and, you know, whatever's being held there. Does that make sense?
Question for you, Linda. Well, it's for us as well. I mean, I'm just thinking as you're talking. So the function of light body, I mean, people might say, well, why, you know, why do I need to know about this? Why, you know, what is the function of, I mean, what am I going to do with it? What am I going to do with my light body? What is this? I mean, maybe a little more, we can expand a bit to explain to people maybe what is the function of light body? What does it do? What, you know, why do we need it? Why do we have it? I mean, how good is it to us? I mean, I mean, we can all chime in. I mean, we're all learning. So as far as I
am, question. Exactly.
Yeah.
No, it's
just good for you know. Yeah.
Well, the light body, I would say, it's a form of protection, and, you know, it helps us to help. Oh gosh, it's like another way of life, basically. I think once it starts coming online and you become aware of your light body, it just changes everything. It's like you're just able to sense that you've got this, you know, this aura that's able. I mean, for example, when I was younger, I had no context for it. I would feel I would jump because I would feel something start piercing my aura, and it was, you know, which I came to find out was like, you know, some thought forms. It could have been something, you know, like a dark energetic structure, something, you know, an implant or whatever, or, you know. So basically, once you're empowering yourself as a you know, a being of multi-dimensional consciousness, this is what is really essential for us to grasp, is that we are multi-dimensional. So, you know, if you've got these layers of ego, then you have layers of light body. So these light body, as you evolve, your light body evolves with you.
Yes, and the knowledge of light body teaches the ego that there is, you know, ego can, you know, teaches the ego and reminds us that we exist beyond our body, that the light body is the structure that can take us beyond this physical body. So when people say, oh, it's important to build the light body, let's start building the light body. So what is meant by that probably is like, let's start investing time and energy in getting to know our light body and what this vehicle, and looking at it and seeing, considering the damage that happened on Earth and the history. Because if we don't have the context for light body, what happens when we die? We're just like, right, okay, so I'm in the body, I'm not quite sure what is this. Yes. So
Yeah,
the
'cause
light
this
body.
information has been wiped out. It's been, okay, fine, people are, exploring it in the new age, and, or they'll come across it in, that there's loads of pictures of like the macabre. It's like you said, it's a vehicle. It is a light body vehicle. And this vehicle, I think we used to know how to use it. We used to know how to, it's another way of like a form of traveling, basically, once you get, to a certain
Yes,
level.
yes.
So
Each ring in that picture that we showed earlier, like each of those circles, each of those spheres is the dimension, and each of those connector points is us being able to enter and travel. So if we look at sphere 5, we could basically go into, from sphere 5, we could move
yes,
to
this is
to,
it.
to,
Exactly. This is the whole dimensions. Exactly, our multi-dimensional self. This is it. So,
and it's
you
like,
can then learn and explore each of those dimensions. Yeah.
which we
It's been
actually, we probably do it, we do it unconsciously all the time. Each time we go into some creative painting a creative picture or doing something creative, bang, we're on dimension 5, 6 or 7, we're somewhere there getting all the insights still in this body. So it's just being more conscious about it, I guess, with the light body, learning about its physics, its dynamic, all the stuff which comes with it, to prepare ourselves so when the time comes to leave this body, we're going to be a little bit more knowledgeable about, our other body, which is not physical.
yes,
And
but I
maybe
think it
not
ties in with the dimensions, ties in with the DNA. So, when they talk about, this is what I always questioned, that was really used to confuse me when I used to hear about, there are 12 strands of DNA, but they're all junk apart from 2.
Yeah, yeah.
And this is the missing, this is the missing piece. It's like when we have awareness that you actually can reclaim those missing strands back, because once you start knowing about the light body, that's it. That's the 12 strands of DNA that you can start activating. This is what we talk about with the 12D shield technique. You're reclaiming all those dimensions and that DNA back.
Yes, yes. I was just thinking of my, yeah. Sonia, did you want to say something?
No, that was well said. Well said. Well said, Linda. That's similar to what I was going to say, and you said it well. Yeah, it's reclaiming. It's reclaiming. It's like, wow, people figuring out that we have different layers to our body, our different layers to our consciousness. That is, to me, that's exciting, because you go through you're dredging through life with all of these hardships, and then you suddenly find out that there's more. You mean there's more to me? There's more to life? There's more, and that I can clear this, and I can elevate out of this? Yes. And this is what we're doing. This is what I'm doing. This is what we're doing here. But we're trying to explain to the listeners, yes, we're on the journey with you. We're learning as we go. We're trying to explain it to you the best that we can, and we will become better at it as we go along. But you should know, like has what Linda and Trinity have said here very well, these different layers. One piece that I tried to take on one of our other podcasts was trying to explain a holographic template. And, and like you said, Linda, too, there's different layers of of our beingness, okay, multidimensional being. And the first layer would be, as you were explaining, the 12 tree grid and the spheres. My understanding is that's the blueprint, the instruction set for a human being. So, you know, to my mind, that is healing and dismantling from the ego. When I hear that, I'm like, wow, that's exciting to me. You know, I'm not this, you know, shell that's been imprisoned. I have this beautiful light body structure that I can clear. And like you both said too, it's a process of clearing those spheres out. And we're, you know, this 12 tree grid structure is, you're going to see the different spheres that goes up the pillar of the body, starting at the feet, like you said, Linda, and then going up. And there is junk, there is debris, there is possession, there is etheric weapons, there is pain, there's all kinds of crap in our spheres that we need to clear out of the different dimensions. And once we start doing that, we start refining our light body. Then we can start really feeling, you know, a lot more clearly, you know, who we are. We can get in touch with the heart centers. We can get in touch with the heart of God, or all of these refined energies that maybe we're not able to tap into as clearly right now. But that's the process of cleaning out those spheres. So we have to do the work. This is what we're trying to say. This is part of the process. Learning that you have a light body, but you have to clear it. Spend time clearing the pain body, clearing out the pain and all those debris. So that jumped out at me as we were talking, that it's a holographic template, the instructions, that the blueprint of a human, the different layers. You've got the spheres, then there's the second layer, the chakra keys, and then the third layer of the chakras, and of course we have the physical body. This is our package. This is the divine human blueprint. It's amazing. It's amazing.
And I have to say this, and obviously mind control does everything in order to just keep us in the first three spheres. Sphere 1, which is our unconscious mind. Sphere 2, instinctual mind. Sphere 3, our personality matrix. That's it. Everything that pertains to anything to do with sphere 4, which is astral level, has been deleted from schools, from knowledge, from universities, from science, from everywhere. Soul does not exist as far as science. Soul does not exist as far as school, you know, as far as like mainstream. You mentioned something about soul in the mainstream. It's getting better, but I'm just talking about, like, you know, so people could see that how conveniently that everything, every narrative that we meet in any kind of societal domain, whether it's medical, whether it's, you know, educational, everything is going to be about the first three: personality matrix, the ego mind, the instinctual, the fear, the dependency, you know, all those kind of like the kind of, you know, the tactics, victimize, this strategies and everything that comes, you know, the society divide and conquer and all those. This is all based on the first three spheres to keep us locked in this constant war, constant dividing. I just had to say this about mind control, just because we're talking about
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I was going to bring up. It's so important to grasp that concept, because that's what keeps us separated. You know, if you just, with that mind control, it's like, they wanted to keep us in those three layers. That's it. You know, because if we start opening up and we start connecting in to our higher centers,
and even religion, even
more empowered, you know, we're more empowered, then we can move away a lot more from the mind control. Look at all the people now that, you know, are called conspiracy theorists, nut jobs, and, you know, who's going to be running to us when disclosure happens? It'll be all the people that are still stuck in their personality matrix going, oh, what's, you know, and we'll have the answers then, you know, and I'm just saying, it's like sooner or later, people, or they're starting to face it and wake up to it, what is really going on and what's happening. And so, you know, it's going to be unpleasant, it's going to be uncomfortable, but you know what I'd like to say, you know, there are words of comfort that, you know, you can get through the pain, you can get through the uncomfortable, you know, feelings that are going to surface, like, really, like, is this really what's been going on, is this really what's been happening to us? So, you know, we just want to empower people with the tools, with the awareness that there's a lot that has happened to us, but we can also come to grips with it. We can become empowered and we can become clear. We can have clarity. You know, as you both mentioned, we can connect with our hearts. That's the most powerful thing that we can ever do for ourselves is, you know, become aware that we are eternal Christ beings. When you have that feeling and you know that within your heart, that carries you through each day. You know, when you become a bit more over, you know, like being triggered or overwhelmed with what's happening in the world, go within, connecting with the heart. I'm an eternal God self. And yeah, that's just, for me, I think that's just going to be a very important concept for people to grasp. It's going to be really supportive and helpful when they start understanding that and experiencing it. You know, it all comes through, you know, gnosis.
And being very careful what we are exposed to in terms of our mind and our thoughts, because it's very difficult to mind control the heart. It's impossible, and of course it's still possible through pain, because and dark heart, you know, we all have pain in the heart and it's closed and it's darkened. It's possible, of course, through the pain, but generally heart is a little bit less susceptible to mind control, because heart is the feeling. It's like, I feel this, so you can't con me. I mean, it doesn't matter what you're saying, I feel you're lying to me, end of. This is what the heart does. But of course the mind control, the thoughts, what our conscious mind is telling us, and the thoughts that we're believing in our mind, this is very easily controlled. And this is done by a media, by a, you know, digital TV, you know, the frequencies, because the mind is our brain is electromagnetic, and this is where the thoughts are coming. Our brain picking up, like a radio, picking up all those thoughts. So we need to be, ideally, especially now, very mindful. What are we subjecting? If our brain too, what frequencies are we subjecting? I'm going to the shop, I'm coming back, suddenly I feel suicidal. I mean, why? Why after I just been to the shop? So it's like, what's going on there? I need to ask myself and say, okay, is it to do with something that has been potentially, my mind had potentially mirrored itself with? So how can I clear that? It's not me. So we need that type of awareness. We need that type of awareness now, because, you know, our mind is an electromagnetic device, our brain. We need to take responsibility and know that there is
Not all
a
thoughts
specific,
are ours. They're not all ours. They're actually,
yes.
you know, they're being pulsed at us. And that's an important point. Thank you for that. Because when you look at youth nowadays, how many are feeling suicidal? How many are feeling anxiety and depression? And it really is. It's what is out there in the collective. It's being pulsed. It really is.
Not just collective, but through the grids as well. You know, was it horseman pulsing?
AI,
or there is AI.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, there's an important thought that comes to me, that, you know, when we're all talking about mind control, light body, ego, and it kind of ties into what we're talking about, which is, you know, of course, we've talked about how important it is to work on ourselves and to not be in that autopilot, not go on autopilot, right? That's the negative ego, when we're not witnessing ourselves, observing ourselves, and we're just allowing these negative feelings to take over and run us. That's the autopilot. That's the negative ego. And the other piece is that's important. I'm not quite sure how to say it. I'm just going to say it, and then maybe we can all chime in about it. But if we are not in the driver's seat, feeling our presence, like I'm in the driver's seat right now talking, but I have not always been in the driver's seat. I've not always been aware of my presence. I have been overwhelmed by everything coming in, being pulsed at me, like you both just said, the implanted thoughts, you know, with the grids, with the AI, everything being pulsed at me through the television, and I'm just playing out these lower chakra roles. I'm trapped in that, not even being able to see myself. Okay, if we're not in the driver's seat, then someone else will walk in and take over. That is very, very crucial for the listeners to understand, because it happened to me. It happens to all of us. It happens to all of us, I'll say that. But, you know, to each her own, his own, you'll have to discover that for yourself. But yeah, you are taken over. You are, I would say, influenced by everything around you, and not only by the AI, but by possession as well. And you don't even know, like we just said, Linda and Trinity, you were saying, you know, like the implanted thoughts, you know, most of what people think aren't even their original thoughts. You don't even realize it's not your original thoughts. This is the sadistic system that we have lived within. And so again, just to repeat that one line, is that if we're not in the driver's seat, if we're not aware, if we're running ourselves, you know, we don't want to be on autopilot, then someone else will walk in, and they do it all the time. They do it on a regular, and who's they? Again, for the listeners, the negative alien agenda people, which could be human or non-human beings, imposter races, intruder races, demonics, you know, disincarnates, beings who are looking for a bit of pollution that they want to feed on our energy fields. Okay, so if we're not healing our light body, if we are in the negative ego and we're not even aware of that, these beings that I just explained will walk into your light body and take over, because that's what they do. They're not connected in with, how can I say, they're not sustained by God's light or eternal liquid living light. They're not sustained by the life force energy. They don't have their own connection in with the central point of all union, with creation source, whatever a person wants to call it, whatever your belief system is. They're not connected in with that. That is why they will walk into your light body if there's an opening to do so.
Well said,
Thank you for
Sonia.
that.
Well said. Good point. Yeah, absolutely.
Very good point. Yes. I saw an ex-boyfriend of mine. He had a reptilian, and one night he actually turned, and he said it to me on a few occasions. I was pretty young at the time, and he's like, I feel I turned into a reptilian, and it just the possession, you know, just overtook him, and his whole face, body, everything changed. It was like the etheric layer that was there actually just sort of came into the body a bit, and I could see it. And I was like, oh, yeah. Wow. And I didn't have any context for it until much, you know, years later, when I started, you know, discovering these things, and especially within, you know, ES, about this is why it's nothing to be scared of. And, you know, the more fear that you have, then they will take advantage of it, you know. So when I talk about my personal journey and, you know, with my ego, I became very aware of, like, not just one, you know, this is called single soul occupancy. This is our main aim. When we talk about the NEA, we talk about the negative ego. we talk about awareness of our light body. We want to have full sovereignty. We want to be God, sovereign, free. How do we reclaim our God self? How do we reclaim our sovereignty? How do we reclaim our freedom? Single soul occupancy. And it's, you know, fear will come up, and we've got to clear the fear as well, because there's nothing to be scared of. Because when you start shining the God spark that you are, and I actually did that on a few occasions. I mean, in a very dark place. When I talk about my dismantling, I was in the phantom realm because it was a drug addiction. And night after night, I was, you know, in this phantom realm, and I could feel it and I could see it, I could hear them. And, you know, towards the end of that, I was just connecting in with my heart. You know, this whole awareness came in. I think it was after 2011. Something activated within me, and I started fighting back. I started becoming empowered because my heart just had to, like, my soul was just like, okay, you know, you're going through all this dark night. Now it's time to come out the other side. And I remember shining my heart, you know, just my light just went at them, and they just shrunk away, you know. So these entities that were possessing me at the time, you know, and you just got to keep working on that. You've got to start believing it. And I'm a firm believer, you fake it till you make it.
Yes.
You know, it's really, you just keep doing that. It's like I'm internal until you start feeling it. If that's the way it has to be, until you keep clearing it. Because I promise you, one day you will have single soul occupancy. There is no doubt about it, because the power that you have to become God, sovereign and free is a lot more power than they ever have. And the way they have overtaken it is through, you know, when we have anger, then they can step in, because, you know, you have a weakness because you're not in your love, heart-centered space. If you're feeling fear, you're not in your love, heart-centered space, in the true self, you know, your God, sovereign, free self. So this is why we talk about observe always how you are feeling. If you're feeling anger, take a step back. If you are feeling fear, you know, I'm not talking about squashing your feelings. You've got to process them, but you do it within a heart space. You do it within a centered space. You know, just really just your intention every single day of what does it mean to you? Contemplate what it means to be God, sovereign and free, because your ego will just have less and less space within that structure, within that frequency, because that frequency that these entities hold when they are got their claws in, their claws start loosening. You know, and from my personal experience, these entities, you know, they just disappeared. You know, and I'm not to say that I'm enlightened in any way. I'm just saying, you know, it just becomes each day just becomes just that little bit easier, where you release fear constantly. You've got to keep releasing this fear, because that was there. You know, look at what's happened this year, the propaganda and the fear. So that's just another mind control, as Trinity is saying. You know, it's through our emotions, and it makes us weak, and it makes us disempowered when we are fearful. So
It's
yeah,
through our pain body and through our shadow body, uncleared shadow body and pain body, that we all have, because we never taught, we never given true facts about our history. So we carry this pain within us, we carry this shadow within us, especially the fear of death, the fear around, you know, persecution, you know, all sorts of fears around, like security fears, yes, fear of survival, you know, these are all base fears that we all have. And this is that the mind control is hitting on. But if we knew about our 12, you know, our tree of life, our light body, if we knew that really understood that there is no such thing as death, you know, that we don't die, we just transit from one level to another. You know, if we really understood this, then obviously mind control will be ineffective. I mean, okay, bring it on. I mean, so this is what they capitalize. They capitalize on, like, you know, having all this unhealed traumas, unhealed shadow bodies, keeping people confused, taking away knowledge from people, not giving people true information. And this is why they're manipulating still. A lot of people are still into this confused state, not knowing. A lot of people are waking up, but a lot of people are still have to make up their minds what's what. And they like it, they keep it like this because it's to their advantage. So I'm just trying to sort of to explain how this works, because this is exactly how it has been so successful. You know, now they're dividing us against each other, so that we, you know, we'll start like, oh, somebody's not wearing a mask, oh my god, they're not, you know, they're not looking after themselves and they're infecting other people. So people are buying this narrative and dividing, and now beginning to police each other. I mean, how convenient. Now we're going to be divided and freaking on each other. I mean, how convenient is that? Who's benefiting from this? Who's benefiting from our division, from our constant kind of fighting with each other? And this is all part of the mind control, part of the not giving us opportunity to grow into our full potential and activate our light body. Here we go.
As David Icke always says, they, you know, problem, reaction, solution. This is what they
Yeah,
like to provide.
perfect.
So they
Yeah.
give us, you know, look at this year, how it's played out, and now the solution is going to be, oh, have a vaccine.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah.
Okay, really?
And learn to obey. Learn to obey. You've got to obey. We have to train you to obey. So if the government says this, you've got to obey. Even if the government tells you something totally insane, you have to obey. You have to lose all your judgment. You have to lose all your common sense, because you are, you know, you just have to obey what you're told. End of. And that's what is programmed into the masses. And the fear is the one that makes people, you know, these deep fears of being ostracized, of being socially stigmatized. Yeah, these are all fears, and they're playing on these fears. And we just have to.
And you know, it's compassion. That's an important point. Thank you for that. Because really, we have to have compassion. And when people are awake, so now I'm seeing this play out. They're the awakened people, and now they are angry and judgmental towards what they call the normies, the sheeple, the ones that are not awake. And this was a point that I wanted to make people aware of today, is it's coming back into this loving, compassionate space. It's like, it's this ego ignorance. So what can we do as loving, compassionate beings, as awakened people? Are we going to continue being like them? Are we going to be coming from a place of anger and judging them, and, you know, still feeling the separation and the divide? Because that's also what they want. They want this divide and conquer. They still want this division. So how are we going to bring these people that are not awake to an awakening? All we can do is hold space, you know, not shout from the rooftops, you're all sheeple. No, how about, you know, we love humanity, we're here just to love humanity, and you just hold that space within your heart. You know, it's not coming from a place of anger, you're not coming from a place of judgment. Everyone has their own mission, and sooner or later, if they don't wake up now, that's okay. If they wake up in the future, that's okay. We can't control, you know, we can't come from a place of ego in this divide and conquer game anymore. If as an awakened person, you've got to be responsible. So show that responsibility to the people that are not awake. Show how you are being responsible for your God sovereign free self. You know, how are you being responsible for dealing with your ego? How are you being responsible in, you know, getting these entities out of your field and out of the driving seat? Because as soon as you do that, you are lifting up everyone around you and your community, your families. This is what it's about. It's not about saying, judging and being angry at these people that are not awakened. Sorry, I'm just getting passionate because this is just all coming up for me recently, because it's just another divide and conquer game. you know. So really it's about just keep loving yourself, follow the law of one, and loving humanity, you know, for all of what we're going through. It's just as difficult for them unawakened as it is for us being awakened. You know, we have another responsibility, and it's very difficult for us because we're aware of what's going on, and we also have to deal with the pain and the suffering that goes with that. But how do you deal with that? You've got to keep, you know, clearing that connection with your eternal self and with God.
It all comes to 0 point. It all comes to this observer, non-judgmental, you know, calm in the heart.
Passionate witness.
Yes, and like be the change we want to see. It's like it's each one of us will need, you know, ideally like having that inner truth to be true to ourselves, true to the moment, true to what is true for us. This is the time to basically stand up for what we feel is the truth for us. No longer we can kind of like, oh, maybe I can just, oh, it's okay, maybe I can just fit in, and oh, let's just do this. It's like, well, no, it's like, okay, this is not again, enough. But it's for each one of us to kind of decide where that enough is going to be. As long as we are authentic, as long as we are true, as long as we are, you know, using our common sense, not just taking, you know, questioning. This is it, questioning the reality, questioning the narrative, questioning why, taking responsibility, all of them, you know.
It is. It's
Just
looking
want
for
to
the
say,
truth.
I just want to say real quick, thank you to both Linda, wow, very nice, very nicely said, and thank you also Trinity. But I wanted to say that before, yes, thank you, that's it.
Thank you, Sonia, for thanking.
Thank you.
Nice to have validation
Truth.
sometimes. Yeah, here we go. Here's the ego. Here's the ego for you, yeah? In the moment. External validation is sometimes nice, yeah.
So I feel that as well. That's another important point, you know, is gratitude. And, you know, Sonia is expressing gratitude. So, you know,
Yes,
is that
yes.
also, you know, that you to step out of the ego, you're feeling this gratitude, which comes from truth.
Authentic.
For me, that's how I feel it. Truth. I feel gratitude when I hear truth. I feel gratitude when I feel the truth, because the truth is like a frequency of vibration, and it's like the truth is hitting the planet right now, and this is what is awakening people, and then that's what they're questioning, and this true spirit is just rising up within the planet herself. You know, this is God. God is the true spirit. So, you know, when it starts hitting and you start aligning, it's like keep your true spirit, because that is what carries you forward.
Yes, well said, Linda. Well said, Sonia. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Anything else we'd like to add?
Well, on what are we on now?
We could do the breathing calming technique for 5 minutes. What? How long have we been now?
Oh God, that's.
I have no idea.
Sonia, what does it say?
Yeah, I think it's a good time to do the breathing technique. It feels like it's
Oh yes,
it feels correct.
1 hour 20.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, let's align with our true spirit. Okay. So let's close our eyes. Now, when you take a deep breath, it's called a balloon breath. So I want to show you how to breathe deeply. as, you know, when a lot of people are walking around in their ego personality, we often breathing just in our top chest. And one way to relax, you know, to help center yourself, to bring in some calm into the body. And I recommend, you know, doing this for 10, 20 minutes a day, maybe twice a day. Or if you're going through a stressful situation, or you're feeling overwhelmed, or you're feeling like you're reacting, what you can do, sit down, standing, or even just walking. So when you're breathing in, you breathe in through the nose, and as you breathe in, you bring the breath down. So you're feeling your chest rise first, and then you breathe deeper, and then you feel your belly being filled with the breath. And then when you're breathing out, you're sort of pressing in the belly towards the spine. So the breath is actually really being pushed up, up, out of the chest and out through the nose. So with this deep belly breathing, it's very good. It's like a calming, relaxing technique. And the more you breathe like this, it's really beneficial. So let's just take a couple of moments just exploring our breathing. And if you can't do a deep belly breath, that's okay. You know, what matters is your intention. That the more you practice bringing in, you know, focusing on doing this breath, it becomes easier, because, you know, a lot of us can hold tension within the body. So it just comes with practice. So if you're not able to breathe into the belly, that's okay. Just keep focusing on your breath going in and out. Okay, let's take one more deep breath. And when you breathe out, just release all tension, release all stress. And now just breathing normally, softly in and out. And when you're ready, open your eyes. You're both falling asleep now. Why send you to sleep?
Yeah, I got somewhere.
Oh, I was okay with that.
Oh God, that was relaxing. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm.
Yeah.
So necessary, isn't it? Like you said, Linda, it's so necessary for us to learn how to do that. That's a form of meditation, right?
Yes, because ego thrives on tension. Negative ego thrives on tension. Generally, ego just a bit tense. Yeah. So again, this is
Monkey mind. They call the monkey mind. It's running around and running around. So when people they immediately feel pressure from the ego. Oh, I can't meditate because my thoughts are going a million miles an hour. All you need to do is just breathe, you know, and just it suddenly well, not suddenly. It will eventually get the mind out of the way. You just keep focusing on the breath, in, out, in, out. You know, just your power of intention, relax, relax, relax.
And body work. Body work is also like moving the body, shifting the energy, doing something, yes, to get the tension out of the body, and then the mind could then with the breath follow. So it's kind of like body, mind, and breath, they're kind of all linked. So slow down one, and then, so it's like trying to work them all and see. Some people are more movement, more kinetic. They like to move a bit more, you know. So for some people, like doing a bit of a movement meditation, using the breath with the movement. Maybe some people can sit, you know, but I think all of us, especially in this lockdown, I think a lot of us had to go on the computer, work remotely. So we're all sitting a lot now. Suddenly, I notice with me, suddenly I'm like, before it was like jump in the car, drive, walk, you know, do this. Now it's just like constantly like wake up, bang, on the computer. So I think we need to be more mindful about the movement, the work-life balance at home, you know.
Yes, that's why I do Qigong.
Yes, Qigong.
Yeah.
That's a good, yeah, you've got nice glasses in there. I mean, this is not the advertisement spiel, but just to mention that you do.
Yeah.
We're not advertising. We're not doing any advertising here. Linda's got enough people already queuing for her classes. Yeah, but it's great. Yeah, anything, yoga, qigong, whatever, tai chi, whatever people, you know, any exercise would be good.
That's a good point. If I had to say something that I felt like in closing, what I also would feel would be helpful to the listeners. First of all, I think that you're both correct, and those are great ideas. Do the qigong, do the meditation, any kind of movement, yoga. I know Trinity, you do yoga. Yeah, get into that kind of a routine. I was also thinking to share as well, maybe a tip for people is that, you know, when we're first starting out, so first of all, implement something that Linda and Trinity had suggested. But also, something very important is at the very least, try practicing impulse control. Very simple, impulse control. So if we have a pattern of just maybe tantruming and maybe just, you know, scolding and being mean to people to express ourselves because we feel that someone didn't do something quite the way that we thought they should, and we just want to vomit our feelings all over the place. This is part of rehabilitation, practicing, and it's hard, it's difficult because if we're so used to being in the lower chakras, in the ego mind, and we're in that pattern of negativity, what I'm suggesting is that, and I've done this myself, so I'm not just preaching, you know, I've done this myself. It takes effort, a constant effort and contemplation and awareness of the self. Start tuning into our feelings, start tuning into our awareness, be aware of who we are, of what we're doing, of what we're thinking and saying. That's where the impulse control comes in. And so if a pattern of, you know, I'm just going to, it's bubbling up and I'm getting angry and I'm just going to lash out at someone because that's a pattern, then we can begin with impulse control, and we feel that right here, like I'm really angry and I want to lash out at you, but wait a minute, I'm going to calm down and I'm going to break it down and I'm going to use my feelings and my words. I'm a human being, we're human beings here. We have the ability to use feelings and words to express ourselves. So that would be my advice. Just work on, this is baby steps, work on impulse control.
Thank you.
Yeah, good advice. It all comes hand in hand. Self-observation, impulse control, you know, body-mind connection, movement, you know, balance. tension, detensing, breathing, you know, all these, they're simple things, but just, you know, it doesn't have to be a hour. It could be like 10 minutes there, 10 minutes there, but just being mindful about this, like how can I keep my body, how can I notice tension today and do something to detense? That's already a good step, like small little steps, just, and then other things will add to that.
That's a big step to take, I have to say, and is the daily discipline of watching your ego. And like you said, Sonia, the impulse control. It's like, how are you reacting when you're being triggered? You know, if you're not able to take a step back from being triggered that day, forgive yourself and resolve to do it better the next day. That's how I did it. You know, it's like just, yeah, that impulse control. You know that, you know, you try and do it the best in that moment. If you can't, it's okay. Don't stop judging yourself. You can try better next time. Until eventually these impulses, you just, yeah, they're able to become less and less because you start responding. You're able to start coming from a place of, you're not reacting. There's constant reaction.
Yes, and getting used to the language of the heart. And language of the heart is a little bit different from language of the mind. Language of the mind is very cumbersome. It seeks explanations and justifications for everything. And seeks like, oh, you know, why, but why, and justify, I mean, and rational explanation. Whereas the heart is very simple, yes or no, organic, non-organic. Does it feel good? No, okay, I won't do it. Whereas the mind will be like, well, it doesn't feel good, but I've got to do this, but I've got to do this, but they'll think I'm bad. This is what the mind does. But the heart is very simple, like, it doesn't feel good. Do I do it? No. Okay, bang, go. So its heart is very kind of like a genius, like a simple genie who is there and saying to you yes, no, and always guides you in the right way, because heart is like spiral time. It comes from the future to guide you into the possible solution, whereas the mind is constantly lagging behind with its logic, like do step 1, step 2, step 3, oops, the wrong track, retrace, step 3, step 2, step 1. The heart will just say step 10, bang, you're there. So it's kind of like coming from this algorithmic mind, which we're all programmed now with all tech, even more so, and into the spiral heart, bringing us into this yes, no simplicity of just being and trusting. And this is where
Well said.
yeah, it's kind of like we're living, we're like, we're alive then. Well, we're living beings. So
Yeah, how many times my heart would say one thing and my mind would say another thing, you know, like my headless chicken days, I call them.
yes,
You know, there'd be alarm bells going off. My heart would be saying, no, don't do that, or don't go with this person. But my mind would go, no, it's all right. Or, you know, some sort of justification.
yes,
You know,
yes.
your impulse, you know, it's like following those impulses, yeah, without actually taking, you know, listening to the heart and what it's saying. It's like a little voice, you know, it's like this little voice that goes, oh, you know, hang on a minute.
Yeah.
Oh,
And it's very clear. It's like, it's very clear, and it's almost like simple to the point our mind just cannot take it because it's so like easy. Our mind just has to like have something so difficult and so cumbersome. But it's just like, it's
yeah.
a simple thing. Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. Yeah. All right. So are we finishing now? Are we rounding up? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So I just want to say to our listeners, thank you for being with us, sharing this with us. We're all sharing together in this. We're all learning. So thank you for joining us. And as always, we say, please take what resonates. You know, we're all here in this together. So we're all at different levels. We all have different needs. So whatever resonates, take it, be open to it, discard whatever doesn't resonate. So make up your own mind. That's what we say. We're here to bring information, but it's up to you to make up your own mind and construct the picture in your, what is most suitable for you at this stage of your life, your development. So next week, we will be coming back with part 2 of the mind control. We started on mind control and we're going to go and continue. Mind control is a huge topic, so we'll be coming back to this topic, Linda's topic. We'll be coming back to sexual misery. We'll be coming back to mind control. So we'll kind of be discussing topics in a bit more depth. So stay tuned until then.
Oh yes, there's one thing I wanted to mention. Was if you want to do some more research as well, is to look up Pedo Empire. So it's very difficult now when you to do research and to find something that's truthful. And I highly recommend this website. He's a brilliant, amazing journalist. He's done meticulous research, and it's go and support him. I'd say read it if you are questioning and you're awakening. This is really good information to absorb. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Okay, so I pass on to Sonia now.
Okay, well, thank you. Very lovely to be here with both Linda and Trinity today. Thanks to our listeners. And I'm going to close with a prayer. And it's kind of nice to seal the field, have some good, loving feelings to seal the field with, seal the conversation with. And so just get into a relaxed space and we'll just have a little prayer, and here we go. Beloved God and the eternal Christ, families serving the law of one, please amplify our prayer request as the avatars of Christ, Sophia, and the truth spirit that we are, for one and for all. We pray for the sovereign rights of all humanity to be restored to God's natural laws on this earth. May all those who are awakening, feeling betrayed, confused by this Antichrist war that is playing out, we lovingly decree that their hearts are healed, their spirits reclaimed in the power of our Holy Mother, Holy Father, that has returned to this earth. May we stand strong with love and courage, bringing coherence to every level of their consciousness, remembering the truth of the infinite God spark that we are. We pray on behalf of our children that the harvesting of Lush end completely. Please feel humanity and free humanity of enslavement, deception, entrapment from the psychopathic death cults. We ask for divine right order and harmony on disclosure, ascension, timeline. In unity, we will prevail. May the truth set us free. We are the cosmic Christ. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. Bye. Thank you.
Bye.